We're back. The legend Bobby Seale,
Right.
Charles Barron.
Yeah. I wanted Bobby to get into, for our young people, to see the kind of commitment young people had back then.
Yeah,
Bobby Hutton is an excellent example of that.
When I was working in the Department of Human Resources, I hired little Bobby Hutton as a student assistant, and so he worked part-time there, you know, and I made him get back in. He dropped out of school, but I made him get back in school. You know what I mean? I told him you didn't need to, and Huey and others, I hired Huey too, because Huey was my assistant on the other end. He was a youth employee. You have to know I'm 7 years older than Huey.
Okay.
How old were you when you started the Panther?
Oh, I've turned 30 years old.
30? And Huey was like
23?
23, yeah.
Look at that.
At
And
best.
Bobby was what, 16, 17?
Oh, Bobby Hutton was 16,
16.
when we started.
Okay.
So I'm just saying, little Bobby Hutton was the first one who was killed and was murdered in the Black Panther Party. And this was 2 days after Dr. Martin Luther King was murdered. But it was that period, you know, with little Bobby Hutton. I mean, we evolved little Bobby Hutton through reading and digesting and understanding Malcolm X, through reading and digesting several other books, but I got him into Frantz Fanon's Wretched of the Earth.
Okay.
And that's heavy material.
Yes,
if anybody knows the history,
yes, it is.
the Wretched of the Earth, Frantz Fanon was something, you know what I mean?
Right.
But I got him on that level. So his consciousness was rapid in understanding what we was at, what we was coming, etc. He was murdered, literally murdered, that night when he came out with his hands up,
That's right.
and the cops kicked him in the back and says, "Run, nigga," and it was smoke and tear gas and everything, etc. And they shot him down 9 or 10 times. Now, you know I'm doing a feature film of my life story.
Yes.
All of this stuff is in my story, okay? Now, we've done our good research. There was one sister who was a young black African-American who was a cop, fresh cop, 3 or 4 months a cop, on the Oakland Police Department. She was out there that night. So, in the inquest, later on, of little Bobby Hutton being killed, the cops say, "Oh, he came out, we thought he had a gun, etc." Boom, 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 and they say that then they shot him. This black sister, we got the information. We're gonna dramatize this stuff in the inquest. She got up on the stand. She said, "Him, and him. All of what they're talking about." She said they murdered Bobby Hutton. They shut the inquest down. Right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Town warden stepped in and got the family a $500,000 settlement.
Back then?
Yeah, man.
500,000?
Yes,
Okay.
man.
That's,
You know, Donald Warden probably took half of it, but you know how they do it. My point is, little Bobby Hutton was killed and murdered. This young man advanced with us. You know what I mean? In fact, see, I had hired him before the Black Panther Party started. Then when we started, we made him the first. I'm going to be with you guys, and he was our first little member. You know what I mean?
Right.
And he was the first one killed 2 days after Dr. Martin Luther King. Understand Dr. Martin Luther King's killing. Prior to that, in 1968, I only had 400 Black Panther Party members up and down the West Coast.
Okay.
Killing of Dr. Martin Luther King, within a month, and particularly after exams was over in colleges, my organization began to be flooded with people who wanted to get in.
Okay.
All those riots that happened, and after those riots peeled down, brothers and sisters came. They understand something. 400 members prior to April 4th, 1968. By November the 1st, I had 5,000 members and 49 chapters and branches throughout the United States.
From 400 to 5,000.
But yeah, man, young brothers and sisters were pissed because Dr. Martin Luther
Yeah.
King had been killed. I want to join the Black Panthers. We got to, and boom, and that's what happened. My organization swelled by leaps and bounds, and I'm jumping to chapter, teaching these brothers and sisters what we're about.
This conversation is so much. How do you then, we got to go back, we got to stay with our history, but how do you now connect that to what we have now? We have nothing. You was able to motivate people to come out and stand for something.
Look, brother, this is about generations,
Yes.
okay? You got a whole generation out here. They don't know, these young people don't know who I am,
That's right.
the history, until we see to it with your programs and stuff like this here, that they get an understanding of it. You understand?
When Blaine called me yesterday,
Yeah.
I was at work and I said, okay, well, let me tell everybody, certain people, and most of the people I went to didn't have a clue who you were. The older generation, the 50s, the late 40s, a few of them knew, It was like you gonna be on it to get this here thing. You got
People, well, you have to understand something, brother. People gotta live. People gotta exist. You know. So one thing the protest movement of the '60s did do, it changed the political landscape
Yes,
in
it did.
terms of the politicians and the people and the representatives. And we got a few things, and we got a few things, but we still have the same problems. We have double the population that we even had in those days. That was a time when we couldn't hardly get students in any major or medium level colleges and stuff, man. I mean, I was a college student in California, man. Do you know I was working? I had a job before I got in. Where was I working at? People don't know I was an engineer. They don't know I worked in the Gemini missile program.
right.
They don't know I did electromagnetic field black light non-destructive testing for all engine frames for the Gemini missile program, that I did non-destructive testing for all 3 stages of exhaust housing for the Gemini missile program. I was high tech, man. I'm an architect, I'm a carpenter, I'm a builder, structural repairman on high performance aircraft, and a non-destructive pastor for machine. This was me. I left that job because I wanted to do something grassroots in the community.
Right.
I created a North Richmond tutorial program, a youth jobs program. Me and 4 or 5 other students. But my point is, it was 7 years ago, the city government of Richmond, California gave me a proclamation for what? For creating the first youth jobs program in that community. So programs, duly elected officials, getting monies and funds directed to where we are at, etc. Black Panther Party ran for political offices all across this country.
Yes.
We on the Peace and Freedom Party, we put Eldridge Cleaver up for president, got him there.
Right.
I ran for state assemblyman in 1968,
Sure.
and Huey was on trial for his life,
Running
and
for
I put his name on the ballot for the 7th Congressional
That's
District in
right.
Oakland, California. I'm telling you. So I'm just saying that it was all merged together in our protests, freeing Huey,
That's
free
right.
political prisoners, brothers. We got to unite, putting programs together, and when the police come, we got to defend ourselves.
And now, only thing they talk about is Black Panthers in defense, and don't realize that your
All
fed
of that
children,
stuff.
yes,
That's right.
your fed
But
children.
that's why we got to stop. We don't criticize the people because they don't know. We got to talk to other brothers and sisters so they know the history. Not only my history, there's all kinds of history, and even Dr. Martin Luther King's history. I mean,
That's
I'm telling you, Reverend Ralph Abernathy, 6 weeks before Martin Luther King was killed, calls me up. He says, Mr. Seale, Dr. King has had me call you. He says, I'm calling more than 100 organizations, and we would like to know the Black Panther would have a representative and help to participate in a roundtable to outline and hammer out economic rights for Black Americans and other people of color. And furthermore, would you be willing to participate in organizing for the upcoming Poor People's March?
That's right.
And I says, Dr. Reverend Ralph Abernathy, yes, sir. You will we will work in coalition with you as we work in coalition with other organizations, etc. So, yes, sir. Tell Dr. King that I love him. From that speech he gave in Oakland, California, in 1962. This is when my period I was first reading my history. Dr. King was in that speech in Oakland Auditorium, 7,000 people. I went to hear him speak. And he talked about all these companies that discriminated against black people. They wouldn't hire black people. Then he got on the bread companies. And he says, and we're going to boycott these bread companies too. Here in the San Francisco, Oakland Bay Area, we're going to boycott Langendorf bread, and we're going to boycott Kilpatrick's bread because they will not hire people of color. And we're going to boycott the national company of Wonder Bread. We're going to boycott them so consistently and so profoundly. We want to make Wonder Bread wonder where the money went. And that 7,000 people in that auditorium hit the floor, and I was one of them, young man getting inspired by Dr. Martin Luther King.
Okay.
You see? So, I mean, yeah, I took self-defense, but I defended his right to have a peaceful protest.
That's right.
The First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America said the people have a right to peaceful assembly of the people, but they brutalized, shot, killed, and murdered peaceful protesters.
That's right.
Every human being has that right.
Yes.
You see what's happening in the third world? The people come out peaceful, and then they go and attack them, and then the people got to defend themselves. Because what you're trying, Malcolm said the ballot or the bullet. He preferred the ballot. But you ain't gonna let me have my ballot. Means you're gonna take away my constitutional right. That means you're gonna try to shoot and kill me. But I have to defend myself.
Without a doubt.
I gotta defend myself.
That's right.
Without a doubt.
That's right.
We'll be right back after this message.